Welcome to Torah on the Go. We're going to try something different for this episode as we inch closer to the very end of the season. Rabbi Feinstein and I wanted to record an episode live, actually 2 episodes live, here from Shulaweiss Chapel. We're going to focus a little bit on the holiday of Passover, and then we're going to open it up to a Q&A on anything. Could be Passover, could be not Passover. Right now, those are the only 2 categories in my mind. Chumetz, Passover and Chumetz, exactly.
Yes. And tinfoil.
And tinfoil, exactly. And we're going to start with a conversation a little bit about the Haggadah. There's a section in Haggadah that I have been teaching. I taught it at Talking Torah, and I've talked about it a little bit in the sanctuary. And that is Keneged Arba'a Banim Dibra Torah. Mm-hmm. Regarding these 4 sons does the Torah speak. Mm-hmm. So first of all, what Torah speaks about these 4 sons, right? I've read the Torah many times over, and actually I can't find the wise, the wicked, the simple, and the one who lacks the ability to ask questions in the Torah.
Come to my seder table, you'll find this.
So when we get to that section, what is the first thing that happens in your, what's the first thing that comes to mind when you read that?
Well, I'm the oldest of 4 brothers, so the first thing that comes to mind is harumph, right here from my brother. The funny thing is how accurately it portrays us. So I'm the wise one,
of course.
And my brother, the rebellious brother, is the wicked one, and then the brother who's a full professor of economics with a PhD from Yale is the simple one, and the one who has fun in the world is mine. The Torah, in traditional Jewish life, the idea was that no word of the Torah is wasted. And therefore, there are invitations to interpretation written in the text. 4 times the Torah says, V'yigadat lebincha. 4 times it says, you will tell your child in that day, it's because of what God did for me when I came out of Egypt. So the rabbis say, why does it tell you that 4 times? And then the brilliance of the thing is, so that the story is told for everyone sitting at the table, according to their need, according to their level, according to the what's in their soul. So the wise child who wants to know how you do stuff, we talk to that kid in that language. The wicked child, and I think that's the question I love the most. I think his question is the best, and that's why I can't stand the fact that he's castigated as wicked. He asks the question, what does this mean to us? What does this mean to you? How does this story find a place in your own personal story? That is the question of the seder. And then the third one just says, Nu, what's going on here? And then the 4th one doesn't say anything. Oh, it just says V'yigadat lebincha. So you open for him. You open for him or her the conversation.
I like to read them, and this might be the Disney movie in me, right? I like to read them as the different of the 7 dwarfs. So I don't read a wicked son. There's a grumpy son, and then I know who we're talking about in my family. Right. Like, there's nobody wicked. There's grumpy careful, for sure, but there's not. So let's read them because they don't say necessarily what we think that they say according to the official Haggadah of Moshe Rabbeinu. Moses received the Maxwell House Haggadah on the top of Mount Sinai, and so is it. Just think of this is the greatest sponsorship in the history of Judaism. Just think if we called it the Coca-Cola Chumash or something else, and we referred to it like that. Chacham, Mahu Omer. So the wise, what does he say? What are these the testimony, statutes, judgments that the eternal our God has commanded you? And then Rasha, the wicked.
Yeah.
Mahu Omer, what does he say? He says, Maha avodah hazot lachem. He says, what does the service mean for you? Mm-hmm. Mean for you, commanded for you. They each say something very similar. So to me, it's not necessarily in the wording that makes one wise and one wicked, or one dark and one grumpy. It's something very different that the rabbis are noticing about the question, and they interpret the questions very, very differently, even though the wording is so similar.
Right. Because the wise one is the one who wants to know, how do I do this? And how do I do this is an easily answered question. Whenever anyone calls us and says, how do I do this? You give them an answer. The much harder question is the kid who asks why. Tell me why. Tell me what's the deeper meaning here. Tell me how this is supposed to find a place in my heart. Tell me why this is supposed to reshape my vision of the world. That's a much more piercing, difficult, and demanding question. But it's the question that in certain moments, and I would say this one is in many ways that moment, it's the question that needs to be addressed at the Seder table.
The wicked asks, why does this matter?
Yeah.
That's what he's asking. He's asking, not what are we doing, or not what are the rules of what we're doing.
Yeah.
Why would anybody do this?
Well, why do you do this?
Why do you do
he's
this?
Actually, I think he's asking it in a more personal way.
Right.
Why does this matter to you?
Right.
So you schlep me here to the Seder, and you make me sit here during this service, and you're doing all this stuff around me. Tell me what impact this has on your vision of the world.
Right. And we still receive those questions.
Yeah, and then the
Thank
simple
God
one,
we receive those questions.
So the simple, you want to go on to the next one?
No, go ahead.
No, well, the simple one simply says mazot.
Right.
And the problem is that simple, the Hebrew tam can mean one of two things. It can either mean a denigration, meaning he's not too good, he's not too smart, and he doesn't quite get it that something is different around him. Manish tana halayla hazeh. Why is tonight different? He doesn't quite get it. It could be that. In the other way, it can mean something very, very positive. Tam is one who is taken up with wonder. He looks around, he says, my God, look at this. Look at this. And in some ways, that too is a profound question. Mazot, look at what's around us. Look at the world we're living in. Look at this moment of our history. Look at that experience. In some ways, standing at the edge of the Red Sea, perceiving the miracle, all one could say was, Mazot, look at this. Just look at this. Right? And in some ways, it is a very deeply spiritual response to what's going on around him.
The development of the Haggadah from the earliest kernel of it, which has to be the biblical verses that we recite, right, about Moses and the Exodus from Egypt that happens in the book of Exodus and the book of Numbers, and to the beginnings of the proto-rabbinics, the brilliance of the Passover sandwich that got Hillel into the Hall of Fame, right? Matzah maror and a matzah charoset maror, put it all together, and you get a sandwich. And then you get Rabban Gamliel, and then on a deeper level, you have the search for meaning.
Right.
You have the search for meaning. Finally, when we get all these component pieces of the Seder together, we say, what is this all for?
What is it for? And then the fourth one is interesting. So the fourth one, She'eno Yodea Lishol, in all of the illustrations, comes out as a kid, a little child, or a simple-minded person. Sometimes we imagine it's a child who either doesn't understand, he's too young to understand, or he's too young to articulate. Rabbi Schulweis, my teacher, he had a different take on that. So he asked us, like, She'eno Yodea Lishol, a one who doesn't know enough to ask a question. What kind of Jew doesn't ask a question? Every Jew, at least you're going to ask, like, when do we eat, But this kid sits at the table mute. Why? And Schulweis's answer was quite remarkable. He said, he was yesterday's Rasha. He was the kid who yesterday came to the Seder and said, Mazal Lechem, what does this mean to you? Why are we doing this? How does this impact our lives? And instead of giving him an answer, instead of helping him understand, instead of opening his eyes and his mind, we told him, you're a Rasha, you're wicked, shut up.
We blunted his teeth. I think that's what the Maxwell says.
Yes, exactly right. So he did. He shut up. That's why he's She'eno Yodea Lishol. He comes, he sits there with contempt, he sits there petulantly, he sits there without engaging with the Seder at all, and we're supposed to somehow engage with him. That's the symbol of our failure. Schulweis called this non-Jews, like Jews who are not Orthodox, not conservative, not Reform, not Zionist, not anti-Zionist. This is people with no conviction. They asked in the National Jewish Population Survey, there's 5.2 million Jews in America. They asked them, what's your current religion? And a very large percentage of especially younger Jews check the box labeled none. That I'm not of this people. And then, of course, Yitz Greenberg, our dear teacher, he lived long lives, he came to one more, he said, at least he comes to the table.
Right.
There's a fifth one who doesn't even show up. And that's the most tragic of all. That's the one we really haven't reached. And that's the one we have to worry about the most. It's a wonderful midrash because they're types.
Right.
These are 4 types of Jews who engage with our history, engage with our story.
The idea of the seder is to deliver to everybody a course of Yiddishkeit.
A truth.
Yeah, it's an experiential education experiment almost, where we spoon feed. I don't mean to use food metaphors, but that's what the seder is about. We spoon feed Judaism to people in doses according to what it is that they can take.
Right.
According to what it is they can take. So there are people who come to the seder from the very outset who want to bring printed up articles from periodicals and things that they've learned. There are people at the seder who simply want to read as quickly as possible to get to the course, to the main course. And we're trying to balance all those different perspectives at a table. But I've always found that the most profound part of the 4 children sitting there is the idea that we are not willing to let anybody go. Right? We struggle with the notion of how to keep them at the table, even if there is somebody who considers themselves to be not associated, none of these categories.
Right.
We still won't let you go. Passover is a night where we say there is nothing that could keep Jews away from this table.
Well, see, you and I have talked about this before when we talked about Genesis. One of the geniuses of the Jewish tradition is to locate covenant in family. Do you think about, for example, a different religious metaphor? Jesus in the Christian myth gathers 12 disciples around him. And yeah, there's some doubting and there's some questioning, but they're basically 12 guys who believe what he believes, right? In the Buddhist tradition, the Buddha gathers the Bodhisattva around him, and they believe what he believes. But the wonderful thing about family is that nobody believes what anyone believes, right? They don't even know what they believe. I mean, and the idea that you're going to sit at the most important ritual of the year with a group of people who are so disparate, so different in their background, their attitude, their values, their connection, their mood, and they're all going to come to the table, and we're going to try to figure out how to get to each one of them. We're going to try to figure out how to tell the story to each one of them. And here, I think, again, the genius of the Seder is don't start with they, then, there. Start with me, here, now. Ba'avur zeh she'asa li b'tzeiti miMitzrayim. You want to know why this matters, kid? Because I was there. Because I tasted the bitterness of slavery. Because I saw what they did. And I fought back. And I escaped. And it wasn't easy. And you start with a personal story. It's a personal story. It's a deeply personal connection. That's why the wonderful thing about that midrash is it's somebody's children. I mean, these aren't strangers at the Seder table. These are children of one family. And the question is, can you tell the story in the first person with conviction? Right. That's how you open up each one of these character types.
I think what's also great about the midrash, and you just alluded to it, is if these are 4 children of somebody's family, then what we acknowledge about our tradition is that, let's just say all 4 children went to day school. They come out differently. All 4 children.
Oh God, yes.
Right. All 4 children went through summer camps. They come out differently.
Oh yeah.
All four children are raised within the tradition of coming to the Seder with this family, but yet the 4 of them sit down. They have very different perspectives on their upbringing, and their relationship to Torah, and their relationship to our people, and that's okay. What the Seder does in this moment is it, in some ways, sanctions it. It acknowledges that we do our best to raise our kids within the tradition. And as it turns out, unfortunately, our kids grow up to have their own opinions. Okay, and this is something that I'm beginning to deal with teenagers. They go. We send them to.
Wait, my dear friend. Wait. You have no idea.
We try our best to send them to these schools, and they come back with their own opinions. I get very upset.
Yeah, and then they come back with spouses and partners. Wait, and in-laws. Wait.
But in spite of different ideas, nonetheless, we're family.
So there's a beautiful, I remember there was a museum in Israel, they've now remodeled it, called the Diaspora Museum.
Yeah, now it's called Anu.
Right. It was Beit HaTfutzot.
Yeah.
And there was the best part of the museum was this display on the wall. It starts out with an Eastern European Jewish family, Mordechai and Sarah Leah. Yeah. And then their 4 kids, who go off in 4 different, one's a Zionist, one's a socialist, one's a capitalist, one's a God knows what. And then the grandchildren, this one's a Buddhist, and this one is a kibbutznik, and this one is a West Bank settler, and this one. It's just the most beautiful picture of Jewish modernity, exactly what you said. And then what's wonderful is that in each successive generation, it's what you didn't expect. The one who came to America and became a very assimilated Jew, his kid is a West Bank settler living in a yeshiva with payas down to his knees, right? And the one who went to Israel, his kid left Israel, moved to Berlin, and is a computer scientist. And the idea is it's dynamic. It's what you and I have always told families. Wait, this is a dynamic. Give them time. They will grow. They will change their minds. You've planted things there. Watch the way those things flower. That's why you don't send any four of them, even to Russia. You don't send them away from the table. You talk to them.
Right.
You engage them. You feed them.
Right. And they're all sticking around for the meal.
They're all waiting for dessert.
So deep down, they're all Jewish. It just, they're all sitting there waiting for the meal to start.
They're all waiting for the meal.
They just have different questions.
Right. When are we going to eat? That's the question of the Seder. Right? So,
which is the part of the Seder that you engage your family the most? What do you think is the most interactive?
Well, the first thing is just to gather them.
Yeah.
I mean, this year, thank goodness, my brothers are all coming in. My brother from Israel's coming in, and my brother from Boston's coming in, and my brother from here. My dad's going to be there.
Where does it happen? At your house?
That we were going to do it at home, but we passed the number of people that the fire department would let us have in the house. So we're actually going to do it here. There's actually, they opened the shul. So we're actually going to have it here. But the idea is to gather us. So the first part is the gathering. And I always say a bracha. I mean, it's unbelievable. Given the exigencies of family life, given the dangers in the world, I think you have to say a bracha of that. Then, as we get into the Seder, our tradition is when we reach the Magid, the telling part of the Seder, we put aside the Haggadah, and I bring a text. I usually bring the first 3 chapters of Shemot. And we'll read of Exodus, the book of Exodus, and we'll just read it together and study the Bible together, tell the story together. And it's a big argument in my family because it's not just the Russia, but everybody wants to know what's going on. And then it's a great joy to be able to sing Dayenu. And our custom is you go around the table and you start with the youngest, and that's the first Dayenu. So this year, Leo, my new grandson is Dayenu Leo and Dayenu Heidi and Dayenu for each of the kids at the table up through my dad, who's the patriarch of the family. I want to say one more thing, though. This year, there's one more bracha we have to add. And it makes me very emotional because I watched it the other night, and this is what was in my head. The angel of death came again. Saturday night, this last week. The angel of destruction. 350 Iranian missiles fired at Israel. There was a guy on the radio that pointed out that when Russia invaded Ukraine, they only shot 200 missiles at Ukraine. 350 projectiles of death fired at Israel, and one got through. So the angel of death came. That poor kid is in the hospital, and she's in our prayers today.
We should all pray for her.
We pray for her. But the angel of death came, and this time it wasn't blood on the doorpost, but it was the equivalent. It was the equivalent of a triple-layer anti-missile system, plus the cooperation of America, Jordan, Britain, France, and even now we know Saudi Arabia even helped. The miracle happened again. We have to stop and embrace that miracle, and we have to sing Dayenu for all the tsaros we're going through, and God knows there's plenty, for the hostages that are still in captivity, and for those who've been taken from us. This time, once again, the angel of death was pushed on, passed over our houses. So that's going to be this year's conversation at the table.
There is much to be anxious about this year, and there's much to be grateful for.
Absolutely.
And perhaps that's where we've always sat. Just some years we have we've depended on a kind of veil of where we haven't noticed it quite as much. But this year it's apparent, and we do owe an extra blessing for making it to this point and for being with one another. And perhaps this year it's more important for the Jewish people to gather around tables than any year since the original Exodus.
For a long time.
For a long time.
It's important for us to gather around, hold each other's hands, say thank you for the blessings, and pray to God for protection.
Oh. On behalf of Rabbi Feinstein and myself and the rest of the clergy here.
And our families.
We want to wish you Chag Sameach, a happy, healthy Passover. Enjoy your seders, enjoy your meals, enjoy the questions, and remember that everyone deserves to be part of the Passover experience. It's a time in which we welcome everyone to our table.
It's a wonderful thing that we say Chag Sameach at every holiday. We say Good Shabbos on Sabbath. But on Pesach, the tradition is to say a Zisen Pesach. Right? Let it be a sweet, sweet Pesach. Please God.